Welcome to this edition of Tuesday Talks with Twyla. Happy Tuesday. Today, I want to talk about how what people say to us impact us. So, I've noticed that there can be two types of reactions when either something not nice or something rude or something direct is said to us. And it's either we just almost like ignore it and it just doesn't impact us, doesn't affect us, almost like what I like to describe as it bounces off of us. And what I imagine is that we have like this shield of armor, and so it just bounces off and it doesn't impact us. And the other thing that happens is that it does impact us. And I imagine that it like infiltrates us. It is absorbed by our brain. And we believe these things. We believe that that's what we deserve. That's the way we deserve to be treated, that it's okay for them to talk to us like that, that, that's just either how it is or that's just how it's always been. And maybe we don't even realize or give it much thought because it's just always been that way. And so today I challenge you to notice which version of this happens to you. Are you the version where it just bounces off? It doesn't impact you, it doesn't infiltrate you? Or the other thing is that, and I find this very interesting, that you don't have people saying things like that to you, right? Because we all kind of have this way about us. And if you believe this or not, there's like an energy about us, right? And so usually, the other person can feel that energy. You don't always know this is happening. You don't realize this. You don't like assess it. Sometimes you do if you're just around somebody and you're just uncomfortable. But there's a certain, right, level of comfort from that other person to speak to someone that way, to be rude, to talk down to them, to just say not nice things directly to them, right? And or not, right? So some people are just comfortable doing that and then with other people maybe they're not. And that's part of that right personality that we have, that belief, self-concept, self-love, right? It's all part of that, who we are, how we present ourselves into the world, that either allows for a situation like that to happen or not. And if it does happen, how we react, right? So when there is the situation where something is said and it does infiltrate, what's happening in that instance is we are believing what they said if they just say something directly not nice to us, right? We either believe what they say, or if they're just being not nice to us, we believe that we deserve for them to treat us that way. And that is where all of our power is, because we don't deserve to be talked to like that. We don't deserve to be treated like that. Not a single one of us does. And when we understand that, and when we realize that and believe that for ourselves, that's when we can stand in our self-love, in our self-confidence, in our self-concept of not deserving that and not tolerating it, right? And all of that work starts right here. It starts with us, with how we think about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, how we believe things from our environment, from people around us, right? Like how easily it is to be influenced, right? And when you stand strong in your belief, you're not easily influenced, right? You're not quick to believe when someone makes a rude comment or someone, says something not nice, right? It doesn't impact us because we are solid and strong in that self-love, concept, self-confidence. And I like to use the word self-concept because sometimes when we hear the word self-confidence, we're like, yeah, I don't have that, right? Like it's something that we have to, get from somewhere. And it comes from within. So the work is ours to do on our self-confidence. So if I say it as self-concept, then it can maybe be looked at with a little bit different lens. And so you understand that it's the way you think and feel about yourself. It's that concept of yourself. It's that, it's the self-love, the self-concept, all of that self-identity, all of that is talking about the same thing. And the foundation of that, what we feel and think about ourselves, is fed every day by the thoughts we think or the way we talk to ourselves, all of that inner dialogue, all of the little things that we say to ourselves throughout the day. And if you really get curious about that and you start to notice what that is, and you realize, whoa, like that's not nice. And maybe look at it this way. This is my favorite way to look at it. Like if you just imagine the day you were born, like how pure and wholesome and worthy, right? That you were on the day you were born. That is exactly who you are still today. Exactly. Inside, all of that goodness is still there. Now, it's maybe been influenced by your environment, by your childhood, by your upbringing, by your family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, right? Like all of the things that you imagine have been external around that baby from the time it was born until now as you sit here. And all the things that have influenced, impacted, right? All the things that have happened from the outside. But that doesn't change that person inside. And so when you imagine the things that you say to yourself, imagine saying those things to that baby, right? Like, would you ever talk to a baby that way, to an infant, to an innocent child? Would you ever speak to them in the way with the words and the tones? And would you talk to them that way? My guess is probably not, right? I mean, when we talk to babies, we coo and ah and make, some of the weirdest sounds on the planet, right? Like if anybody brings a baby into the office, you can just tell by all of the weird high-pitched voices, like something is going on here because we talk to them differently, right? We're nurturing and kind and loving to that baby because why wouldn't we be, right? It's perfect. God just created this. It's perfect. So when you can relate to that, that's who you are inside. And you can love that version of you, that innocent, pure, genuine, authentic version of you is still inside there. And so when you start with that self-love and that even if you can't go to like from whatever negative level you are to the all the way to the other side of the spectrum where it's self-love. What if you just move a notch to neutral or closer to neutral, where you're moving the needle towards something that's not negative, right? And so maybe it's, I don't hate myself. Maybe I don't love myself, but maybe I like myself, right? So whatever that work is for you, but that's where it all starts. It's that, and sometimes it's just getting back in touch with that, right? Like all the things that have happened in our lives, we disconnect from ourselves, right? Because we're just busy with everything around us, all of our family, tending to the needs of everyone and everything around us, all of the external things, right? And we disconnect from ourselves. We stop even thinking about ourselves. We don't even ask ourselves what we want. How do we feel? What do I need in this moment, right? And sometimes we're just quick to blame everyone around us. Like, my boys never ask me what I need, right? Of course not. They're boys. They're just not going to, right? I have teenagers to 20s. Like they don't do that. They're not going to do that. I have to do that for myself. But here's the thing. That's always the case. We always have to love ourselves first. Because if we don't, the way we show up to the world is not in the most loving version, most loving way, because we can't self-loathe and then show up loving everyone around us. And you might think that you're doing that. It's just not genuine. It's just not completely pure. So there is some negative vibe to that. And people might pick up on that. And they might notice it and you might have some weird interactions. They might treat you like you're fake because it kind of is. And the reality is, when you love yourself first, you show up in the most loving way to everyone around you. That is different. It just is absolutely different. You're more connected, you're more present, you're kinder, you're more genuine, right? Like they can pick up on that. That's an energy that we express in everything that we do when we show up to the world. So that's where the work starts, is figuring out, getting curious and reconnecting with ourselves first and showing up as the best version of ourselves. And when you show up that way, like, first of all, very less likely that anyone is going to say anything rude or mean or whatever to you, right? It's unlikely. But if they do, it just bounces off. It doesn't infiltrate. And everybody else is responsible for their own life, their own experience, and their own either reaction to you or interaction with you. Like they're responsible for that. You're not ever responsible for anything more than yourself. And so in those moments, you might think, boy, they're having a bad day, right? I feel bad for them. I send some love and compassion to them. They're having a bad day. And or just let it go. We don't have to take it on like, oh, what did I do? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, I ruined their day. No, none of that. It's whatever they have going on is theirs to handle, manage, take care of, be responsible for. And so when we can get to this place of true, genuine authenticity and self-love and self-concept, and when we show up to the world that way, the world reacts to us differently because we bring that, right? We bring that self-love. We bring that self-confidence. We stand strong in who we are. We're confident about that. And so, it's one of those things where, like, if you imagine if they don't get the reaction that they're looking for, right? Like, they just it diffuses them, right? And so it wasn't what they anticipated, especially if you're in the transition where this has happened before and you're going to have this interaction with someone and they're going to behave that way and you react totally different, and they might come at you harder. Okay, right? Like that's theirs to own. Their reaction to you is theirs to own. So if they try harder and it bounces faster, right? Like you just imagine like, bouncing a bouncy ball or a tennis ball. Like, if you lob it and it comes back and then like you try harder, right? It just comes back harder. And that doesn't mean that like you're throwing it back in their face, right? No, what that means is you're just standing strong in your power and you're just not letting that affect you. It just doesn't have any impact on you, right? And they're going to stop doing that because they're not getting the reaction that they want. You just stand strong in what you know and love about yourself, and their stuff is untrue. It's not genuine. It's theirs to own, and just let them keep that. That's not for you to pick up, to take on, to let it infiltrate, to believe, none of that, right? You get to decide all of that for yourself, and you get to stand strong in that and show up like that to the world and just stand in that, stand strong in that. Likely, if that person continues to behave that way, you're not going to want to be around them, right? And maybe you didn't want to be around them to start with. Okay, so now when you have the self-concept and self-confidence, you might set a boundary where you don't be around that person. And you don't have to, right? You get to choose. You don't have to subject yourself to something like that ever. You get to choose all of that. And when you have that strength and you have that self-confidence and you have that strong self-concept, you don't put yourself in those positions, right? You don't, there's no benefit to being around somebody like that. Like it's not good for you. You're not just not going to do it, right? You just stand strong and I'm not going to subject myself to that. So I don't, right? You get to decide that. So if those metaphors work for you, I love to visualize it. So for me, like to just imagine that, like, if there is stuff that's said, like it just doesn't impact me, right? Like it just doesn't, if I was at a party and somebody was like that, I probably would just, wander off and not talk to them again. I just would not, be around that type of behavior. And so you just imagine, like, what is that experience like for you when you're around somebody like that? Does it bounce off like you have this shield because you love yourself and stand strong in your genuine truth and that's how you show up to the world in a loving, compassionate manner? Or do you take on their rudeness as like there's something wrong with you, this is what you deserve, and you believe some of their negative things and they're not nice things? Because that's a choice, right? They don't know, they don't get to choose, they get to own their own behavior and experience, and you get to own yours. And you get to decide, do I want to reconnect with that loving, genuine, pure version of me that came from the day I was born, that's still inside me, and I just have to find it? Why not? That is such a more amazing place to live every day, a place to show up to your family every day, to your kids, to your spouse or partner, to your parents or siblings, like whatever your family dynamic looks like, to show up to everyone in your life that way. It is totally different than to show up in kind of this almost like, damaged, beat down version of yourself, right? Like that's not genuine. And the people that love you around you that can see that, that's not how they want you to be in the world. That's not how they want you to show up. They don't want you in situations where people are taking advantage of you, where your coworkers or people just aren't nice to you. They don't want you in that position. And they know you don't deserve that, right? So we can believe that for ourselves. We don't deserve that. This is what we deserve. We are pure, good, worthy. We can love ourselves first. And you might have to drop some noise. You might have to drop some thought errors about how you deserve this because of something from your past, something that you did, something that happened, right? If we carry that and that's what's kind of built this, this poor self-concept and the self-loathing, right? So we get to decide that, right? Like even though all of this stuff happened, even if it isn't something that happened from outside, but it's something that we did, that we contributed to, we get to forgive that. We get to drop that. We get to just tell ourselves, I did the best I could at the time. And maybe you don't believe that. Maybe you're like, I made a mistake. Okay, you're human, right? It's okay to say, I made a mistake and I'm sorry and I forgive myself. I get to forgive myself. Everyone has that gift of forgiveness and grace inside of them. And drop that and start over. I'm going to do better today. Every day I'm going to do better. Every day I'm going to find what I'm grateful for in my life, what I'm thankful for, what I can connect with in my life, and I can be even appreciative, thankful, right? I can just step out of that negativity. Every single little tiny step, every single time we redirect our brain, right? Every time we stop the negativity, every time we interrupt that, that is the work to change the way we just have all of that negative thinking about ourselves, what we're telling ourselves, catch those little voices and stop them. Be like, no, I'm not gonna say that to myself anymore. And so you find what you can say that you can believe that is maybe neutral. Maybe you haven't swung the pendulum over to the positive, but at least it's neutral. At least it's not negative, right? I woke up today. I'm going to make this day count, right? Whatever that means or looks like to you, you get to decide all of that. All right. That's it for today. So, what is like your experience? Do other people's words infiltrate or do they bounce off? Right? So, where do you land in that? And if you start looking at this and you're like, whoa, just reach out. If you have any questions on, what would this mean? What does this look like? How can I handle this? Any questions that come up on this, because I dropped a lot of concepts, but I really just want you to connect with like, what is happening in my experience? Is it bouncing off or is it infiltrating? Is it affecting me? Am I believing it? And what can I do about that? That's where the work starts. So Any questions that you have, be sure to reach out. I hope you have an amazing week. I will see you next week. Have a great week.